is Dr. Raju Maji. He is the Assistant Professor of Law School, Benares Hindu University, Varanasi, and his title of the paper, Contemporary Issues in Human Rights Education in India. May I invite Raju sir for the same. Welcome, sir. We are happy that one person
Hello.
is from that prestigious university.
Hello.
Welcome, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir, please. Can hear you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can begin your presentation.
Okay. Very good afternoon to the chairperson, coordinator of the event, and all the members, those who are associated with conducting this conference, particularly all the officials of the Department of Education, the Kerala University. I would like to congratulate that they have organized such a very contemporary seminar. The subject is very contemporary, that is human rights issue. So once again, I congratulate to all of them for organizing, and I am very much thankful to the organizing committee for selecting my paper and give me an opportunity to present this paper with the August gatherings. The paper which I have chosen, that is the contemporary issues in human rights education in India. So the paper, when I tried to write, at that time I thought that it is very relevant to discuss the certain things which is going on in our society. I will not go in details as far as concerned the definitions part of the human rights because it already talked by the previous speaker. The few things which I like to mention here, which is very relevant as far as concerned the human rights, that is the Second World War. After the Second World War, we have begun to think over you can say the global human rights, and the reason behind it that we found a very beautiful documents in our hand. That is, although it is appears before the international community in the form of declaration. So that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which came in the year 1948, the 10th December. So if you go through the documents, it's very important to emphasize the few things and that which define the human rights. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which clearly states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Now it's very beautiful, the observations which have been made. And these rights which we are talking about, or what we can say that within 30 articles, the things which are incorporated under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, these are the such kind of the fundamental rights which is very important for overall development of a human being. So the human rights are, we can say, the basic fundamental rights are that persons cannot be denied by any individual or any government simply because he or she is a human being. So when we are talking about the human rights, then we'll have to understand the fundamental things that the rights, these are in universal in nature and same for everyone. So it's the equal, and these rights are, we got that because we are a human being. So sometimes we are calling about that it is the natural rights, we are calling that it's the fundamental rights. But if we'll see that in the international community, when these rights were appeared, as I've told you that under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, these rights are in a very fundamental nature, and as I have already mentioned, but again I am reiterating that these rights are very much necessary for any individual for its overall development. So in order to achieve these, after the Second World War, the United Nations founded two main objectives. If you'll see that the two main objectives, if you'll go to the preamble of the United Nations Charter, then you'll find the key words. The first one is, the first objective is, we can say, that to prevent war in future. And the second one, that is to protect and promote human rights. Now, that when we are talking about to protect and promote the human rights, then of course that we require certain tools, and that's the reason that I have chosen this topic, and I'll share some of the things which are creating hurdle in this journey. If I see that the human rights, the initiatives have led to the worldwide human rights movement. There is no doubt about it. In the same way that when we are talking about in our country, that the we have also taken in the same sort of, you can say, the initiative, and it appears from our own documents which we are calling the Constitution of India. That is the law of the land, and that the constitutions, if you go through our constitutions, then no doubt it's, you can say that the constitution shapes the country's concept of human rights. If we'll take the example of our scenario, if we'll go through our, that the, you can say, the pious document, that is, then you'll find in its preamble the fundamental rights, the fundamental duties, the directive principles of the state policy are concrete step towards the realization of human rights. So whereas the basic objectives have been defined in the preamble itself, the protections of human freedom and liberties are emphasized in the fundamental rights and directive principles of a state policy. So in the same way that the rights of the child have been given in the greatest priority in our constitution. So since the rights and duties are inseparable, and that's the reason that we have incorporated the fundamental duties in form of Article 51, which is also very imperative in our cases. So these fundamental rights, the directive principle of a state policy, if we'll go through that, then you'll find that in either way that we have tried to incorporate all the 30 articles or the 30 articles which are embodied in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If we'll talk about the equality before the law, non-discriminations on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, and place of birth. If you're talking about the equality of opportunity, the freedom of speech, expression, assembly, association, movement, residence, acquisition, and dispositions of property, practice of any professions, carrying out any occupation, trade, or business, that is incorporated in Article 19. Article 23 is talking about the prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. In the same way that Article 24 is also talking about the prohibition of labor in case of children below 14 years. So freedom of religion is enshrined under Article 25, and then the no provisions for the religious instructions in an educational institutions wholly mentioned out state funds, that is given under Article 28 of the Constitution, which is a part of the Part 3 of our Constitution, which comes under the purview of fundamental rights. Then under Article 29, it's given the conservations of language, scripts, and culture. Article 30 is talking about the rights of minorities to administer educational institutions, and then under the directive principle of state policy, under Article 38, it is given that a state guaranteed the social order. In the same way, Article 39 is also talking about, which is a part of the directive principle of state policy, that is adequate means of livelihood, equal pay for equal work for both men and women, non-abuse of health of the worker, opportunity for children to develop in health manner and in conditions of freedom and dignity. And then Article 41 is also describing the rights to work, education, and public assistance in specific cases. And very importantly, that the Article 45, which is talking about the provisions for free and compulsory educations for children up to 14 years. But as we know that now it is shifted in the Part 3 of the Indian Constitutions under Article 21A. So Article 46 is also ensuring education and economic development of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections of the society. So in that way, we can say that if I'll see that these rights are necessary for the overall development of human being, we are enough fortunate, because when these documents appears before the international community, at that time we were framing our Indian constitution. So our the framer of the Indian constitutions, they have taken due considerations, and they have tried all these instruments, or you can say the things which is required for the overall development of a human being, which are as a fundamental in nature, or we can say that the natural rights or the human rights, these are incorporated either in part 3 of the constitutions under the fundamental rights, or the part 4 of the Indian constitutions, that is directive principle of state policy. So now I'm coming to the second part, that the human rights educations. As we know that the human rights are, in that way we can say that it's a prerequisite for peace, development and democracy. As we know, or we are very much familiar, that India is the largest democracy in the world. So it is also a big country with a lot of human rights challenges. If I'll say, the major populations of India resides in villages which do not get sufficient education support. In the same way, if I'll see, I can tell you that it is very relative fact that about 35% of the population is illiterate, and due to that, the problems are like the trafficking, exploitations of women commercially and sexually, a religious population, and that the religious violations are there, the caste related issues are there, and we can say that the gender discriminations are some of the, you can say, the examples leading to the human rights violation. So moreover, we can say the many prisoners in India are also denied their human rights. If human rights are violated in that way in India, in like the biggest democracy in the world, then we can see that what is happening in the other parts of the globe. So for the sake of democracy and sustainable development in India, I think that the human rights education is very important. As we are very familiar that knowledge of human rights is the best defense against their violation. So learning about one's rights builds respect for the rights of others and points the way to be more tolerated and in a peaceful society. I think that the time has come, the need of promoting and the protecting all human rights is important in order to secure full and universal enjoyment of these human rights, which cannot be fulfilled without the mass awareness and sensitivity of the human rights issues. But apart from that, if we'll see that there are the certain things which is going on our society. In case of the reality, if we'll see that the major hurdles of the education, human rights education, that is not taken in a very serious notes by the all the authorities which will have. But it is, we can hope that in near future that will work in a different way. My submissions is that if we'll see that the education systems that has to be it has to be included in from the very basic educations. In the primary level, we have to incorporate the certain things which the each and every students must know that what are their rights, because as I've told you, or the many of the speakers, they have told that it is inalienable right. These rights we have got it by born being a human being. So we have to exercise that rights, and at the same time, it is the duty of the authority that they'll have to respect. Once you know that this is your right, then only you can protect your rights. So, and that can be promoted through the educations only. And educations, as far as concerned, the present situation or the scenario we should have, we are getting from the institutions, the schools, the colleges, and the universities. So, in every curriculum, that according to the requirement, will have to incorporate certain part of the human rights portions in each and every curriculum. Of course, I'm a member of the law faculty, Banaras Hindu University. We have a LLM course which is entirely, you can say, the devoted to the human rights educations. The course name is the human rights educations and duties. So the such kind of the program must be initiated by all these institutions. I believe that the NGOs can play, the non-governmental organizations can play a vital role for the creating awareness in the human rights. They have to work with in consonance with the national human rights commissions we have, state human rights commissions we have. They'll have to be work. They'll have to be put together, and that the education's awareness can be created. So, one thing which I like to tell you here, that the ground reality, that how the human rights are violated. It's a very if you think that human rights are violated from the family itself. In our society, what we are doing, that we are discriminating at the home itself, in the family itself. That when we are talking about to give the educations to our child, then we are beginning the gender discriminations. It's happening in the society even today also. We have to accept that reality. Once we are talking about to give the education to the male child, we are giving more importance. But as far as concerned, when talking about to give the educations to the female child, then we are thinking twice that whether we will give in a good schools or not. So this kind of, you can say, the discriminations is beginning from the society. So the society has to be take a very good initiative, and it will help to, you can say, the eliminate or the reduce the human rights violations, as I've told you, which is beginning from the society, or you can say the family itself. And then that the gender discriminations will have to think about it, that the constitution is talking about the equal treatment, equality must be given. But even in our society, that is, the discriminations is continuing. There are certain the places like this, in the religious places, where some of the women's are restricted or prohibited to enter. The such kinds of things are still continuing. So we'll have to promote that. We'll have to treat equally. Being a human, as I have told you, that they are equally and they must be treated equally. I think that I have taken much time, so I'm leaving here. Once again, I would like to thanks to the organizing committee and the chairpersons of this session for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. If you have any queries, then I feel very privileged to be responding.
Thank you, sir. You have been raising very pertinent ideas regarding the human rights education and human rights violation. And you have been reminding us regarding the constitutional provisions, because you are working in the field of law. And I think the literacy of regarding the Constitution of India, it is lacking in the people, even among the students. The students are not being informed, and hence they lack the qualities of responsible citizens. And you have used the right word, that is, it is human rights education is the best defense to make us more responsible, more secure, and more aware of the human rights. And you have highlighted some hurdles regarding the human rights education and gender equality, and how to observe this gender equality. Thank you, sir, because you have been raising, or you have shared your experiences
Thank you,
as
ma'am.
a professor, or as a man who is working in protecting the law.
Thank you, ma'am.
sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Any other comments? Anybody want to share something? Please. So you are working on a prestigious university,
Yeah,
and
ma'am.
that is very much appreciable.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
can share, I think, what is happening in India, all over India, with us. And thank you for being with us. Anybody? Otherwise, we can move on to the second presentation. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please keep in touch.
Okay, ma'am. It's all right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
sir.
much.